What a beautiful space, and that is one of the gardens that is planned for the Garden Conservancy Tour, which is coming up here in just a few weeks. I'm joined by Patrick Kerwin, and welcome to the program. Patrick,
Thank you, Tom. Appreciate it.
I understand you've done a terrific job organizing the tour this year, and I'm looking forward to learning more.
Well, we've got a great group of gardeners and great group of gardens, and it's going to be a pretty fabulous tour this year.
Well, it's always one of my favorite days on the Austin Garden calendar. Tell me, there's one called the Jackson Broussard Gardens. Tell me more about this particular space.
Well, Jackson Broussard is a landscape architect here in Austin, has a company called Sprout. And
like that.
This is his personal home and his personal garden, so he has, all the things that he likes in it. It's kind of a little bit modern, and it's kind of quirky and cool. And
Quirky's a good thing.
Quirky's a good thing.
It seems kind of central in Austin Gardens in a way.
He's got water features and great plantings and a lot of different materials that he's used.
Such as?
Concrete and steel and wood, different wood and, natural stone. And
he's got to have some limestone in there.
Blended it all together pretty nicely, and it's pretty great little garden.
I think it's really cool when you get to see a designer's garden for himself or herself.
Yeah, exactly. So he's done a pretty bang-up job with it, and I think people will really like his work.
I mentioned this is one of my favorite days on the Austin Garden calendar. Maybe news to some people in our audience. How do they learn more about it?
You can go to KLRU, to the website, and you can also go to the Garden Conservancy website, and they'll have a listing for the open days in Texas.
Okay.
So you can go to either place, and we'll be putting some, things on social media, Facebook and such, to kind of let people know what's going on.
And people could buy tickets online?
Online or at the gardens themselves.
Okay, so just go online, learn where at least one of the gardens is, and go.
Yeah, exactly.
It's as simple as that.
Easy.
Very easy to do. Okay, well, let's keep going. Another designer that's going to be featured is Annie Gillespie.
Yeah, Annie's been working in Austin for quite some time, and she's really developed a unique style. She studied as an ecologist, so she's very in tune with the native plant palette and water runoff and catchment, and she uses a lot of different features in her gardens to retain water on the site. And
well, this is a topic I'm really interested in right now, and I'm just hope this is something that will really catch on more. And so to see beautiful examples of rain gardens and how you can slow the flow of waters.
Stormwater management, I think, as we get into these rain cycles, is going to be more and more important here in Austin.
Everybody's thinking how wet it's been recently, but just remember a few years ago and how nice it would have been to have some of that stormwater available to you. American Botanical Council is another one of the sites that's going to be on here, and this is an organization that we featured in the past. Super cool organization. Yeah,
very interesting organization. It is kind of a hidden jewel here in Austin. They're on the east side off of Manor Road. Their operations are in an old historic house and property, and they've developed the property into various gardens, and they have a really unique greenhouse with really cool specialty plants that are medicinal in focus, and most of the plants that they grow are medicinal herbal type plants that are adapted for Texas.
Right, that's an important distinction there, because there are thousands of medicinal plants out there, but when folks go to this particular site, they'll be able to learn which ones do well here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they have a great staff, and they produce a magazine called Herbalgram, which is a very kind of technical herb magazine about different plants. So they've really done a really great job.
Well, it seems like you have a lot of really cool designers on this year's tour. The next one I want to talk about is another garden with an Austin flair. That's B. Jane.
B this is her personal house also, and B has done an amazing job with her own house. She has kind of nailed the modern urban garden. She's got it down. It's just phenomenal. You have to see it to believe it. you know, she has just done a fantastic job.
I love all different kinds of gardens, but for a contrast, you know, one of those super modern, clean, aesthetic ones, I like to see that.
She's got outdoor kitchens and fountains and great plantings, and she's mixed native and non-native plant material, and you know, the colors and the stonework are just phenomenal.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like a great place. Then it leads me to ask: are people able to take photographs at most homes this year?
Most gardens, yes, but it's always polite to ask
Sure.
before you go in. But I think in general, most people will allow photographs.
Yeah. Well, for me, it's always been one of those great photo op days for when it's allowed.
Yeah.
And be respectful about that. Casey Boyder is another place that's going to be featured. This is, I don't know, is this a homeowner or a designer?
Casey Boyder is a designer,
Okay.
and this garden is a small garden. It's a kind of a residential lot and very well done. Casey kind of specializes in roof gardens, so she has an example of her work
Another
on a shed.
flow measure.
Yeah, it's a garden that I think people can relate to because it's not very big, and it's what you can do that's really cool with a small lot. And
Yeah.
she's nailed it.
Well, and you need to have that on a tour. You need to have something that the average person can really relate to. And so
Yeah.
a small space like that typically is a great ad for a garden tour.
Yeah, and we've got 3 or 4 of those on this tour
Okay,
that
good.
are not too big, so to speak. They're kind of just what your average homeowner would be able to appreciate and absorb.
Okay, cool. Well, Tate Mooring has been a kind of a cornerstone of the Austin garden community for a while now, and his space is really special, right?
Tate's is really unique. It's his house and it's office, and it's kind of a display garden for him. And Tate does a fantastic job with stonework and plantings and how he puts those things together spatially, and you get a real sense of how well Tate does that in his own backyard, so to speak. So I think people will really be able to get a sense of what Tate can do when they see his place.
All right, and then there's a really special place in the garden this year. This is the Genesis Garden at Community First. And tell us first a little bit about Community First and the experience that people will have.
Community First is kind of a unique development. It is a development that serves the disabled and the homeless. They actually participate in the gardens and the work that goes on there, and the focus for Community First for the Garden Conservancy is their vegetable garden, and they grow their own food, and it is amazing. I mean, you cannot believe
I
how
think the whole thing is amazing.
Well, the whole thing is
Community
amazing,
First
but
blows me away.
yeah, and you know, they have chicken coops and honeybee hives, and you know, it really helps people, you know, who've had, you know, hard times really kind of come back.
Real quickly, let's again just tell people how they can participate.
Once again, you can go to the KLRU website, or you can go to the Garden Conservancy website, and you can buy your tickets online. You can get maps of the gardens, or you can come to the gardens themselves and get tickets.
Congratulations on lining up another great Garden Conservancy tour.
Well, thanks for having us, Tom.
All right.
Appreciate it.
You're most welcome. Coming up next is Daphne.